leverage flexible talent for growth. And my name is Joao, I am the COO of YunoJuno, and today I have a very special guest, James, Head of Talent Acquisition for Dentsu, and we will be walking you through trends and how flexible talent helps with growth and keeping competitive advantage within the organizations. So, just as a start, a quick introduction of who we are at YunoJuno and what we do. So, we are subject matter experts in managing end-to-end global contingent workforce programs, and we are not just a service provider, but a technology player. So, we help source, manage, pay, classify, and do the end-to-end management with insights of contractor and the contingent workforce programs. In addition to that, we also offer a vendor-neutral solution, but we do have a talent marketplace where clients can tap into more than 100,000 vetted marketing, creative, and technology talent to help delivering on their projects. We are trusted by global brands, and we have helped organizations solve challenges around their core talent strategy, around talent and getting fast access to scale up and scale down depending on the talent needs, global compliance, and also around the complex contractor management end-to-end when it comes to reporting, manage and pay. Today I'm joined with James in partnership with Dentsu, and James, if you want just to give a quick introduction to Dentsu and walk us through some challenges, opportunities and solutions that you see.
Hello everyone. Hi. So I'm James. I've been head of talent acquisition for the UK and Ireland operations in Dentsu for just over 18 months. For those of you who don't know what Dentsu do, we are essentially an advertising media organisation. We help individuals and organisations grow their brands through a suite of capabilities that we have. Right? So that could be customer experience, analytics, media performance, creative, business transformation. We're about 4,000 strong in the UK, but we're part of a bigger global organisation. The UK being, I think, the third largest market for Dentsu globally. So yeah, nice to meet you. Are we going to dive straight into the challenges?
Yes.
Okay. Some of the challenges we face, but perhaps some of you guys do as well, but I'll give you examples from within Dentsu. Everybody wants the same talent. So certainly from our perspective, in our specific talent markets, you can use examples that I've shown here, digital, SEO, paid search, but there are many more. And one of the things that we're looking to do, I suppose, is really try to understand how we think, how we attract, engage, and retain talent that is in demand. Retention, we're going through, there's a certain irony that whilst we support businesses go through transformations themselves, we are also going through transformation. Surprise, surprise. And so from our perspective, it's whilst obviously we're looking to attract great new talent, how do we keep the talent that we already have? That can be hard when you're going through change. So one of the key challenges for us is very much how are we trying to make sure that the talent that we have, the talent we want to keep, is continually motivated and engaged with what we're trying to do. And then the last big one, I suppose, and this was the one that certainly is interesting for me, is the resource management part of talent. So again, as we continue to evolve and evolve our clients, the talent we need evolves, right? The skill sets that we need within the business changes. If I bring up the word AI, I'm sure everyone's just going to go, but it's certainly an example of where we need to think very carefully and very cleverly around how we bring in the specific skill sets that we need, when we bring them in, and how and for. And so the resource management piece for us is one of the key challenges that we are very much diving into as an organisation at this moment in time. Solutions? Yeah, okay. So, one of the key solutions for us, I think, was very much looking at being much more proactive and predictive around our client needs, and therefore being able to be much more proactive and predictive around our talent needs. One of those key areas that I'm working on at the moment is talent pipelining. It can be quite difficult for certainly talent acquisition teams to find the time to be proactive and to pipeline talent. But certainly there are opportunities for us to identify key technologies that can help remove some of the more administrative workload from our TA teams to allow them to invest more time and be more proactive in finding talent that we are going to need in the future. It's about multi-sourcing pipelines as well, so not thinking about necessarily the traditional routes to market like LinkedIn, but being much more open and understanding as to, firstly, trying to find where that talent sits, right, in the digital landscape. If I want to go and find a really brilliant creative, LinkedIn is not where they're going to be sat. So I need to go and find them, I need to go and engage with them, and I need to talk to them. The other piece for me that was actually quite interesting is understanding that whilst we're using technology to build those pipelines, in terms of the tech stack itself, the message that we're sending still has to be human-centric. Yeah? So the message that the talent we want to hire receives from us has to be talent that uses their language, that engages in their particular sphere, and isn't seen as yet another marketing ploy from a talent acquisition team to get them to pick up the phone to us. How are we truly engaging with these people? So a lot of work's going into that. From a retention perspective, look, if you want to get rich, don't go into advertising. Okay? Go into law, go into finance. So if we're not paying 3-year PQE lawyer salaries, what can we do? How do we keep our people, right? And for us, a lot of that is very much around what kind of work are they getting involved in? Yeah? Do we have really cool projects that excite them? Is their work really making an impact on the client and on Dentsu? And are they working in an environment in which they feel included, in which they feel rewarded, not necessarily purely from a physical perspective, but in other ways as well? And are they being recognised, validated? Are they visible within the organisation, right, when they do great work? A lot of work's going into that, with not just from a talent acquisition perspective, obviously, but also our talent teams, our HR teams, our employee experience teams. It's about building that cohesiveness, I suppose, and holistic approach to making sure that the employees we have are engaged, are motivated, and doing great work. And when they do that work, they're recognised for it. So a lot of that is very much around ensuring that those key motivators that keep people motivated at work are ones that we're continually driving through the business. And then finally, the piece around kind of where we get this talent and when we hire them, that is very much a joint effort. So that is around working with not just my team, but also our resource management teams and our talent teams to think about the whole life cycle, I suppose, of the talent that we engage with. So our resource management teams will be very clear about working with our client directors. What does that project need from a capability perspective? What does that client need from a capability perspective? We've just won a client. Crikey, okay, how do we fill those seats as quickly and effectively as possible? Our talent teams will then work to make sure that we're looking internally for the right people. If there are opportunities for promotion, secondment, realignment, redeployment, great. And actually my team hopefully are the team of last resort, right? Insofar as we've looked internally, we've understood our capabilities, here are the gaps, James, go and fill them. But yeah, it's an exciting time when you suddenly win a client and you get a knock on the door and saying, well, we need 15 raise consultants next week, is that okay? And you go, sure. But this is why we're also partnering with key partners externally, YJ being one of them, so that we can rapidly deploy a multi-source approach to talent for clients and for ourselves that includes not just permanent hires, but also short-term subject matter experts. Joao?
Yeah, no, this is great. I think this links very well with what we are seeing in the industry as well. So thank you for sharing more the challenges and solutions. Because when we look at some research, for example, for Gartner, there are key trends that are having an impact on how organizations are shaped now and how they will be shaping the future. So, for example, 83% of the surveys in this research, they feel that there's still a big problem in terms of skill shortage. And it's not surprisingly then that 76% of employees, they feel also that their job responsibility keeps growing. And then there's a big impact also on the ability of the organizations to remain competitive. So even though that we see like these days like market uncertainty, and even though that there's contraction, the skills shortage is still a really key consideration, and I would say even more importantly in certain times. So if we take a look at another survey, and this is from the staffing industry analysts and another one from Deloitte, it is, if you ask the executives of the companies, 77% they do believe that there's a problem with the skills that currently organizations have to remain competitive. And this is one of now the key drivers. And I would say that it's not a replacement, but evolution and amplifying and moving from a role-based organization to actually a skill-based organization. So we are from the view, and I'm from the view that role-based organizations are not going to disappear, but I think that they will be enhanced by leveraging technology, leveraging new models beyond the traditional role model to actually map organizations to clearly identify what are the skill sets that are required to deliver projects and outcomes within the competitive environment that we have today. And this can be done internally, as for example, James has pointed out that there are internal programs, but then there's going to be also flexible talent that can be leveraged to deliver on these outcomes. So today we will focusing more on how flexible talent can help to grow organizations. And you see that from a statistic point of view, that 80% of global organizations already find this as a route to market and to enable the organization. And in the next 2 years, there's going to be even further reliance on this flexible talent workforce. One, due to like the needs of a new generation that wants to work with multiple clients, and also with a very, very fast changing environment, in particular with new technologies, for example, generative AI coming into play, where organizations will want to remain to a degree flexible depending on demand. So with this in mind, and James, you being in the forefront and in an organization that has been dealing with skills-based, what are the insights that you see now and what that you are seeing within the skill-based hiring?
Okay, so for us, I think the reason that we would leverage skills-based, kind of short-term contingent work or flexible workforces are fairly straightforward. So we have a demand for a super specialist skill set for a period of time. And by super specialist, I mean we need a food writing editor for copywriting for 4 weeks to help us with the waitress posting. I'm not going to hire that person permanently. They would be twiddling their thumbs for a regular period of time. But what we do need is to be able to deploy that person as rapidly and as quickly as possible when we need them. The other key one for me, I think, is where we under-index in high-volume roles. So again, I go back to media performance, paid search, paid social. this is in high demand at the moment with some of our key clients. So if, for example, we have people leave, or if we need to grow or redeploy those teams, how do we rapidly fill those gaps? So for us, it's very much about thinking, okay, we need a specialist skill set, so where do we get that from very quickly? How do we build that bench of talent that we can pull on and draw on and deploy within a short space of time, and that could be within 24 hours. And then how do we start to leverage, as I said earlier, that pipeline of talent that feeds into those larger under-indexed job families. So whilst we are, yes, feeding that pipe through from a permanent perspective, when we do spot those gaps, where's the bench to allow us to fill those gaps quickly, especially when, obviously, the way we operate in some of our commercial agreements with clients is that if there isn't that person in that seat, then we're not going to be able to fill for that person, frankly.
Very good. So, and then we already touched a little bit on what is driving the demand in terms of retention. So, I think focusing more on the future, on what you are doing at Dentsu, and also based on what you are seeing, how are actually organizations leveraging flexible talent and skill-based organization for growth?
So I think there's two, right? Because I think the one is it's projects and pitches for us, right? And for you guys it may be slightly different, but certainly things like building up teams for specific client demand or delivering specific services into a client that you've not necessarily delivered before. It is essentially it's reacting to what your client needs. And for us, that can be very quick. And it's really looking at where do we get those subject matter experts to be able to do that really, really effectively and drive impact into our clients. The other piece is fast fill and rapid deployment where we've actually won a client. So, yeah, we've built the pitch, we've done that, we've got the experts in, we've won the pitch. The client then will turn around quite quickly and say, we need these roles filled soonish. We need to think more predictably and more thoughtfully, I suppose, around understanding what those client needs are going to be well in advance of us signing that contract. And as such, again, having the flexibility to bring in individuals who are able to fill those gaps short term, whilst we continue to search for the right level and capability and talent for the long term, is super important.
No, that's quite cool. And one thing that we wanted to add, because we do see a lot of organizations now moving towards this direction, and then one of the things that we normally come up in conversations is from a pragmatic and realistic point of view, actually, how do you do this? And how do you enable? And one of the key things that, for example, we as a technology and service provider company are focusing is like doing this in a seamless way and helping organizations create their own internal talent pools. So almost like building their own CRM system, so to engage with contingent workers, so that you have your own directory and that you can keep engagement and track availabilities of known relationships, and then even if people are moving out of the organization, that those relationships are not lost, and that you kind of have your own address book of getting people and keeping track of skills, projects, even going to reviews and understanding like if the workers that they deliver certain projects were good, keeping that all in one place. So we do see like a big trend of building this internal talent pools and like using the technology to help and to reach a sustainable growth, leveraging and tapping to flexible talent.
Sorry, Joao, I think the other piece for me as well is when you do have to pull talent in very quickly, what I don't want to worry about is any of the compliance involved. I don't want to worry about whether that freelancer has the right to work in the UK. I don't want to have to worry about whether they are inside or outside of R35. Once that initial assessment is done, that's why I let someone else do it, basically.
Yeah, so we do have one thing that is make compliance delightful through technology, because it's one of those things that no one actually normally likes to do it. But we do believe that by offering like almost a consumer-like experience from end to end and just enabling people to come and to book someone, it's really good. But thank you, James. So, if you now need to look to 2025, what are the key trends that you are seeing in our ecosystem?
I think you mentioned Gala earlier. They did do a good report around CEOs looking forwards and understanding that it's the talent shortage that is one of their big kind of numbers. I think we would agree with that. And I think for us, it's how do we start to reimagine the norm? How do we start to challenge the business, work with the business around rethinking what talent looks like, right? So you should have a set of minimum qualifications for that role, right? What does this person absolutely have to have in order to deliver that role effectively? But the rest of it, it can be fuzzier, right? It can be more diverse. It can be looking at different talent that you haven't looked at before. It can be building your own talent, as we have done with our digital academy in the media space. And this digital academy, as soon as you mention academy, people tend to think younger individuals or early careers. We work with partners like Five55, who have very successfully allowed us to bring people into that academy who are now retraining halfway through life, right? I mean, I ran clubs for 20 years and I went into recruitment. I won't tell you whether that was a good or a bad decision, but it's giving people the opportunity, I suppose, which is, do you have the fundamental skills we need to be able to deliver this role? Yes, no, and they don't have to be technical skills, we can teach those. It could be, do you have the right level of critical thinking? Are you curious? Are you able to collaborate? So I think for us, it's that reimagination and challenging the business to kind of think slightly differently about what that person looks like when they bring that set of skills, right? I think the other piece for me is really around thinking more largely around the piece around minimum qualifications and being able to promote that effectively externally. It's all very well we sat here on this plinth, whatever it's called, talking about this, but it's about effectuating that into a marketplace of talent that is already being, subsumed by various different communications from 100 different organisations. So how do we kind of differentiate ourselves when we're talking about this? And then finally, there's a really good piece by a chap called Crispin Reed from Skyscraper who did a bit of research for our industry specifically, talking to school leaders and grads, talking to them about what are the key motivators, what are the turn-offs for joining the advertising industry. One of them was, and what are they looking for when they kind of look for work. The key motivator for them at the moment is money, whether we like it or not, right? So they're either graduates coming out of university with thousands of pounds worth of debt. They're people who are looking to move to London. You need a certain level of income to do that successfully. They are people who have not gone to university because actually they're carers for their family and they're working 2 jobs. They need a certain level of income to support their family, right? So money is a motivator. And as I've said before, if you can't kind of absolutely nail that, what else are you giving them? So for me, it's looking at the broad benefits and the compensation that we offer. Are we able to offer additional holiday? Are we able to offer well-being days? Are we able to offer lifestyle support for, family leave or for, long-term medical sickness or whatever it is that compensates, I suppose, in other ways to make their lives easier and more fulfilling. And I think those are the key challenges, not just for us, but for many organisations.
Yes, and those are quite good points, in particular because with the skill shortage, evolving beyond universities, CVs, the traditional hiring, that is going really to change. And like thinking about really what's required, and if there's the right person for the right job, I think that's going to be very different in the future. So, as the key takeaways for today, like the main thing is that skills continue to be a challenge, and like everyone in this industry, I would be surprised if no, that's not the case. Like hiring the best talent and getting the best skills. There's some key benefits of like tapping into skill base, so to expand your talent pool, even to think about diversity and to remain flexible, and using like flexible talent workforce to support on your core talent acquisition and HR strategies. It's a way also to enhance and to make sure that you have a better chance to get the skills that you need. So this is it for today, and I will just make a mention that we have one of our flagship reports that is around the HR trends. So I would invite everyone to take one home, because we do touch on how to evolve beyond traditional models around leadership, workforce flexibility, and we'll also touch on topics on Gen AI and how to leverage flexible talent for diversity, equity, inclusion. James, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll open the room for questions.
Thank you. We do have a few questions. We'll try and get to as many as we can. How does skill-based mapping work with performance reviews? I'm not sure.
Let's start with an easy one.
James, go for it.
So at Dentsu we have essentially a competency framework for all of our roles. I won't go into too much detail, but TLDR, for each job description, for each level of role, there are a certain set of competencies. Those competencies are skills-based. They can be technical, they can be behavioural. We also have a leadership framework that we combine with that. So essentially what you have is a fairly comprehensive overview of, if you do that job at that level, here's the impact statement, this is what we expect from you, right? These are your day-to-day responsibilities, but this is what it means for us as an organisation. These are the competencies you need in order to be able to effectively deliver that role, so the MQs, as I've been banging on about for 30 minutes. And then here are the performance indicators. So here are your stretch goals. If you achieve those, great. This is kind of the expectation we have beyond that. And I think as everybody in this room will understand, that needs absolutely to be backed up with a ton of conversations. Right? You can't just hand someone a piece of paper and go, off you go, crack on. You do need managers who are able to articulate that and articulate what good looks like and also what great looks like. Does that help? Does that answer the question?
I think we'll try and squeeze one more in,
Go.
you can answer in 30 seconds. So what are the practical steps to take from traditional job descriptions and flexible talent workforce, thinking particularly of the public sector?
So I think it starts by actually understanding what are the projects and what's the work and outcomes that you want to deliver. In the public sector, I'm not an expert there, but I would say that what happens in the private, it's going to be probably some of the best practices that can also be brought into the public sector. That it's really defining what are the outcomes and understanding what are the skills. Going back also to the previous response of James, from a performance review perspective, you can have a good understanding where are the gaps. And then what I would say that's quite important is not treating flexible talent as an indirect procurement category that is just for vendors, but making that part of the core strategy when you want to plan your organization. So what this means is that in addition to just looking at employee and full-time workers, start to bring flexible talent to your core strategy and to understand what are the skills that you want to have on a full-time basis in-house, and what are the skills that you require either from short-term projects or that you don't have, and you might actually bring the flexible talent to upskill your core organization. So,
thank you. Pleasure. There are a couple more questions if you've time to answer those on the app, because we will have to move on to the next speaker. But please join me in showing our appreciation.